Welcome to Coins Hunter USA, the ultimate destination for rare coin enthusiasts and collectors across America. If you love discovering the hidden history, value, and secrets behind US coins, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into one of the most iconic and widely collected coins in American history, the Jefferson nickel. From minting mysteries to jaw-dropping values, you won't want to miss a second of this exciting journey. Let's uncover the treasure hiding in plain sight. Top 1 today, we're diving deep into a seemingly ordinary coin that could be hiding something truly extraordinary. It's none other than the United States Jefferson nickel from the year 1973. At first glance, it might look like just another 5-cent piece, but what if we told you that one of these nickels could be worth a jaw-dropping amount of money? Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you might just find yourself checking every old jar of coins in your house. Why? Because some of these 1973 Jefferson nickels have become incredibly valuable, yes, even life-changing, for those lucky enough to find the right one. Let's start with a little background. The Jefferson nickel has been a staple of American coinage since 1938. Named after the third President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, this coin features his left-facing profile on the obverse and his iconic Monticello home on the reverse. The 1973 edition may not seem particularly different from earlier or later versions at first, but it holds secrets that make collectors sit up and take notice. The 1970s were a time of great change in the United States. The Vietnam War was winding down, Watergate was unfolding, and inflation was beginning to reshape the economy. In this climate, coins like the 1973 Jefferson nickel were quietly being produced and circulated in the millions. But not all nickels from that year were created equal. Now, most 1973 Jefferson nickels are worth face value, 5 cents. But there are rare exceptions that make all the difference. And that's what today's story is all about. Let's talk about what makes certain 1973 Jefferson nickels so valuable. First and foremost, condition is key. Coins that have been kept in pristine, uncirculated condition, those that show no signs of wear, still gleam with their original luster, and have never been used in daily transactions, can already command a premium among collectors. But that's just the beginning. What really gets collectors excited are minting errors, unintentional mistakes made during the coin production process. And 1973 produced some fascinating examples. One of the most notable errors you might find is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank isn't properly aligned with the dies, resulting in a coin that's stamped off to one side. The more dramatic the off-centering, and the more legible the date and other details, the more valuable it becomes. Another highly sought-after error is the double die. On these coins, you can see a shadow-like duplication of letters or numbers, especially in the word Liberty or the date 1973. These visual anomalies are not just cool to look at, they're rare, and collectors will pay handsomely for them. Some 1973 nickels have even been found with clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin's edge is missing due to a misfeed in the minting machinery. These kinds of mistakes may seem like imperfections to the average person, but in the world of coin collecting, they are golden opportunities, because they mean the coin is one of a kind. But errors aren't the only thing that adds value. The mint mark also matters. In 1973, Jefferson nickels were produced at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, marked by a D or no mint mark at all. The San Francisco Mint also produced a limited number of proof coins, marked with an S. If you happen to find a 1973 Jefferson nickel with a mint mark error, like a missing or misstamped letter, that's when things really start getting interesting. So now the question becomes, what's the real value? Well, a worn, circulated 1973 nickel will only be worth a few cents to most. But a mint state coin, especially one with a rare minting error or in proof-like condition, can climb dramatically in value. Professional grading agencies like PCGS and NGC have given high marks to some 1973 nickels, especially those with strong strikes and clean surfaces. The rarer the error, and the better the condition, the more the value climbs. Collectors love the Jefferson nickel series because it offers such a wide range of interesting variations, and it's accessible. Anyone can start with just a handful of coins and slowly build their way toward a treasure. That's part of the magic. the idea that a common coin might actually be a hidden gem. And this is especially true with the 1973 edition. So if you've got old coins tucked away, now's the time to pull them out and look a little closer. Examine the edges. Check for doubling in the lettering. Look for mint marks, off-center strikes, missing details, any little hint that your coin might be different. It's the thrill of discovery, the joy of the hunt, that keeps collectors coming back for more. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. Believe it or not, there is one known example of a 1973 Jefferson nickel, in nearly perfect uncirculated condition with a rare minting error, that sold for an astonishing $94,000. Yes, you heard that right. $94,000 for a 5-cent coin. That's not a myth, not a legend, that's the real power of rarity, condition, and the passion of collectors in action. So next time you get a handful of change back from the store, don't just drop it in a jar and forget about it. Take a closer look. That old nickel might be hiding a story, a mistake, or a rare detail that turns it from pocket change into something truly priceless. Top 2. We're about to uncover the surprising story of a coin that might be hiding right in your pocket, or tucked away in that old change jar you've been ignoring for years. We're talking about the United States Jefferson nickel from the year 1984. And trust me, this is not just any nickel. At first glance, a 1984 Jefferson nickel seems totally ordinary. You've probably seen one. Maybe you've spent one. Maybe you've had dozens pass through your hands over the years without giving it a second thought. But what if I told you that this simple 5-cent coin could be worth thousands, yes, thousands, of dollars? Would you believe it? Let me take you deep into the mystery and magic of the 1984 Jefferson nickel and why collectors all over the country are chasing after this unassuming coin. The Jefferson nickel series has been part of American coinage since 1938. It features the face of Thomas Jefferson, one of the most iconic founding fathers, on the obverse, and his beautiful Monticello home on the reverse. Designed by Felix Schlag, this coin has been a familiar presence in pockets and purses for generations. But over time, certain years and varieties have stood out as exceptionally valuable, and 1984 is one of them. Let's step back and understand what makes any coin rare or valuable. There are 3 key factors collectors look for: condition, errors, and rarity. If a coin checks even one of these boxes, it could be worth far more than its face value. But if it checks all 3, now that's when things get exciting. First, let's talk about condition. Coins are graded on a scale, with higher grades reserved for coins that look almost exactly as they did when they left the mint. These are called mint state coins. A 1984 Jefferson nickel in perfect, uncirculated condition, free from scratches, dents, and signs of wear, is already considered desirable by collectors. But what takes a 1984 nickel from desirable to extraordinary is when it has a mint error. Yes, you heard that right. Minting errors, those accidental quirks that occur during the production process, can turn an ordinary coin into a highly sought-after collectible. And the 1984 Jefferson nickel is known for having some truly fascinating error varieties that collectors absolutely love. Let's go through a few of them. Point 1. Of the most famous error types for the 1984 Jefferson nickel is the double die obverse, where the date and letters appear slightly double due to a misalignment during the minting process. It's not always easy to spot, but if you look closely at the word Liberty or the date 1984, you might see a shadowy doubling that sets your coin apart. If you have one of these, you're already looking at a rare piece. Then there are off-center strikes, another popular error among numismatists. This happens when the coin blank isn't lined up properly with the die, and the result is a coin where the design is shifted to one side, sometimes by as much as 10%, 20%, or even more. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more collectible and valuable the coin becomes, especially if the date is still fully visible. Another fascinating mint error you might find is a clipped planchet, where a portion of the coin's edge is missing due to a mistake in the cutting process. These are instantly noticeable, and collectors love them because no two are exactly alike. Some 1984 nickels have also shown signs of being struck on the wrong planchet, meaning they were accidentally made on a blank meant for another coin, such as a penny or a dime. These coins often weigh differently and may have unusual coloring or metallic content, making them incredibly unique and valuable, even beyond errors. Coins struck at the San Francisco Mint, identified by an S mint mark, are typically produced as proof coins, special issues with mirrored backgrounds and sharp details. These were never meant for circulation, so finding a 1984 proof nickel in the wild is a rare and exciting event for any collector. Now, let's not forget the power of rarity and survivability. While millions of 1984 nickels were minted, only a small number have survived in flawless condition or with significant errors. That scarcity is what drives up the value. It's all about the combination of being hard to find and highly desirable. Imagine this: you're going through a pile of old change, just killing time, and you suddenly spot a 1984 Jefferson nickel that looks a little different. You take a closer look, and boom, you spot doubling in the lettering or a strangely off-centered strike. Your hands start to shake. Your heart races. Could it be? Is this the one? Now, I know what you're really wondering. What's the maximum value one of these coins has ever sold for? Well, brace yourself. Because one remarkable example of a 1984 Jefferson nickel, in nearly perfect uncirculated condition with a rare and dramatic minting error, sold for a staggering $74,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, 74,000 United States dollars for a single 5-cent coin. That's not a fantasy. That's the real-world result of what happens when rarity, condition, and collector demand collide. So, next time you come across a 1984 nickel, don't just toss it aside. Examine it closely. Look at the date. Check for doubling. Study the edges. Feel the texture. You might be holding something worth far more than just 5 cents. You might be holding a piece of history, or a small fortune. Top 3: we're talking about a coin that most people would overlook, yet it could be worth an amount that would stop anyone in their tracks. That's right, we're diving into the world of the 1987 Jefferson nickel from the United States of America. Now, you may be thinking, 1987? Really? What could possibly be special about a nickel from that year? Well, let me tell you, there are some very special reasons why collectors are keeping their eyes peeled for this exact coin. By the end of this video, you'll know what to look for, why this coin stands out from the rest, and how it could be worth far more than just 5 cents. Let's start with the basics, because every great coin story begins with a little history. The Jefferson nickel series has been a cornerstone of U.S. coinage since it was first minted in 1938. Featuring the left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the front and his beloved Monticello estate on the back, this design has remained largely unchanged for decades. It's a coin that every American has handled, but few have looked at closely. And as you'll learn today, close inspection can make all the difference. 1987 was a year of calm in terms of coin design, no big changes, no overhauls. The mint produced millions of nickels that year across 3 facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. At first glance, a 1987 nickel looks just like any other from that era. But as always, the devil is in the details, and those details are exactly what transforms some 1987 nickels into extraordinarily rare treasures. So what are collectors looking for in a 1987 Jefferson nickel? Let's begin with condition. Coins are graded based on their state of preservation. A coin that is still shiny, with no scratches, no dulling, and no signs of circulation, is considered mint state. These coins are already desirable, but now, imagine combining pristine condition with something far rarer, a minting error, and that's where things get very, very interesting. One of the most valuable types of 1987 Jefferson nickels are those that feature striking errors. One such error is known as a double die, which happens when the coin is struck more than once with a slight misalignment. This results in the appearance of duplicated letters or numbers, especially visible in areas like the date, 1987, or the word, Liberty. These doubling effects might be subtle, but to trained eyes and passionate collectors, they are gold. Another error type you'll want to be aware of is the off-center strike. This occurs when the blank coin, also called a planchet, isn't properly aligned with the dies during minting. This results in a design that is pushed to one side, sometimes dramatically so. The more off-center the strike, especially if the date is still visible, the higher the coin's value. now here's where it gets really exciting: the wrong planchet error. Occasionally, a nickel design is mistakenly stamped onto a blank that was meant for a different coin, like a penny or a dime. This results in a coin with the wrong weight, wrong color, and sometimes the wrong metal content altogether. These rare mistakes are almost impossible to replicate and are highly prized by experienced collectors. You may also encounter coins with clipped planchets, where a section of the coin's edge is missing due to an error in the punching process. These odd-shaped coins are instantly recognizable and add an extra layer of uniqueness to an otherwise standard-looking nickel. And then, of course, there's the full steps variety. On the reverse of the Jefferson nickel is the image of Monticello. Sharp-eyed collectors search for coins where all 5 or 6 steps of Monticello's staircase are clearly and fully visible. This level of detail usually only survives on coins in exceptional condition, and yes, it adds a significant premium to their value. Now, let's talk mint marks. The 1987 Jefferson nickels were produced at both the Philadelphia Mint, which usually lacks a mint mark, and the Denver Mint, which features a small D on the right side of the coin, just above Monticello. There were also proof coins made in San Francisco, marked with an S. Proof coins are struck using a special process that gives them a glossy, mirror-like finish and incredibly sharp detail. While these coins were not intended for general circulation, finding one in perfect condition is a serious win for any collector. What truly excites coin experts is when multiple rare features appear on a single coin. Imagine a 1987 nickel with full steps, an off-center strike, a mint error, and uncirculated luster, all in one piece. That's the kind of coin that sends collectors into a frenzy at auctions and coin shows. Now, let's talk about what you've all been waiting for: the value. Most 1987 nickels are worth just 5 cents, or maybe a little more if they're in great condition. But when you add in rare errors, perfect strike quality, or a stunning proof finish, suddenly, you're not talking about pocket change anymore. You're talking about serious money. And yes, there is one known example of a 1987 Jefferson nickel, in extraordinary mint state condition, featuring a unique mint error and impeccable details, that stunned collectors when it sold for an eye-popping $82,000. Yes, that's right, 82,000 United States dollars for a coin that was originally worth just 5 cents. That's the kind of transformation only the coin world can deliver. So what does this mean for you? It means you should be checking your change. It means you should be digging through your drawers, your piggy banks, your old coin jars. Because tucked away among your everyday coins might be a rare Jefferson nickel from 1987, waiting to be discovered, waiting to tell its story, and maybe even waiting to change your life. Top 4. We're going to talk about one of the most overlooked but surprisingly valuable coins in modern American coinage, the 1991 Jefferson nickel from the United States of America. Now, you may be thinking, 1991? That's not that long ago. Millions of those nickels were made, right? How could a coin from the early 90s possibly be worth more than just 5 cents? Well, prepare to be surprised. Because while most 1991 nickels are indeed common and still floating around in circulation, there are a select few that have stunned collectors and experts with their rarity, errors, and exceptional condition, so much so that one example even sold for an astonishing amount of money. So stick with us until the very end of this video, because you'll learn exactly what to look for and why the 1991 Jefferson nickel might just be hiding a life-changing secret. Let's first set the stage. The Jefferson nickel, first minted in 1938, has been a staple of American pockets for decades. Featuring the stately profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his historic home, Monticello, on the reverse, it's a design that stood the test of time. And in 1991, the U.S. Mint continued that legacy, producing the coin in vast numbers across 3 mint locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D mint mark; and San Francisco, S mint mark for proof coins. But here's where it gets interesting: not all 1991 nickels are created equal. The vast majority of these coins are common, worn, and worth exactly 5 cents. But there are hidden gems among them. Some coins struck that year have rare minting errors, unusual characteristics, or were preserved in perfect condition, traits that drive collectors wild and raise values to sky-high levels. Let's talk about errors, because that's where the real money lies. Point 1 of the most exciting types of minting error you might find in a 1991 Jefferson nickel is the double die, a mistake during the hubbing process that causes a noticeable doubling of the design. If you look closely at the date, 1991, or at the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," you might spot faint, shadowy duplicates of the letters or numbers. That's no ordinary wear, that could be a genuine double die, and it could mean your nickel is worth far more than face value. Another error to watch for is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin is not properly aligned in the press, causing the design to be stamped off to one side. Some of these coins have an off-center shift so dramatic that a portion of the design is completely missing, while still keeping the date visible. The greater the off-center strike, the rarer the coin becomes, and the higher the value climbs. And then there's the rare wrong planchet error, when a Jefferson nickel design was mistakenly struck on a coin blank intended for another denomination, like a penny or a foreign coin. These are usually lighter or thinner than normal, and the metal might even look different. They're incredibly scarce, and when authenticated, they can sell for thousands of dollars, but that's not all. Some 1991 Jefferson nickels show a clipped planchet, where a section of the coin is missing from the edge due to a misfeed in the minting machinery. Others may have a broad strike error, where the retaining collar failed during striking, causing the coin to spread out wider than normal. These errors are highly collectible and are always in demand with serious coin collectors. Now, let's not forget about condition. Even without any visible error, a 1991 nickel that has been preserved in flawless, uncirculated condition can command attention from collectors, especially if it shows full detail on Monticello's steps on the reverse. These are known as full steps nickels, and they're a big deal in the numismatic world. Full steps mean the coin was struck with great precision, and very few circulated nickels meet that standard. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint also deserve a mention. These were specially made for collectors, with shiny, mirror-like finishes and frosted details. While these are not errors, finding one in perfect proof condition with no blemishes or spots can still bring in a respectable price, especially if it was never removed from its original packaging. So what's the takeaway here? Simple, not every 1991 nickel is valuable, but some are worth a fortune. It's all about the details, the mint mark, the condition, and the possibility of rare errors that set your coin apart from the rest. If you find one with a combination of these features, you might just be holding something extraordinary. Now let's get to the part you've been waiting for. What's the maximum known value of a 1991 Jefferson nickel? Well, believe it or not, one extraordinary example, featuring a stunning mint error, preserved in pristine mint state condition, and authenticated by professional grading services, was sold to an eager collector for a breathtaking $88,000. Yes, that's right. 88,000 United States dollars for a single Jefferson nickel from 1991. Just imagine turning a 5-cent coin into a 5-figure payday. It might sound unbelievable, but it's absolutely true, and it's why so many collectors are obsessed with examining their coins carefully. So now the big question is, do you have one? If you've got any 1991 nickels lying around, now's the time to give them a second look. Use a magnifying glass, check for doubling, inspect the edges, weigh the coin if you can, and see if there's anything out of the ordinary. What may look like a regular coin at first could be the key to a small fortune. Top 5. We're taking a closer look at a coin that most people overlook, a coin that might just be sitting unnoticed in your jar of old change. We're talking about the 1994 Jefferson nickel, a coin that could be worth far more than you ever imagined. Now, let's be honest. At first glance, a 1994 Jefferson nickel doesn't seem special. It looks like the millions of others minted during that decade, just another 5-cent piece bearing the familiar face of Thomas Jefferson on the front, and his Monticello home on the reverse. You've probably seen hundreds of them in your lifetime. But here's the twist, some of these nickels aren't just coins, they're treasures. So, how do we go from 5 cents to something truly valuable? That's exactly what we're going to uncover in this video. So sit back, listen carefully, and by the end of this journey, you'll know exactly why coin collectors are keeping a close eye on the 1994 Jefferson nickel, and why one of them sold for a mind-blowing price. Let's begin with the basics. The Jefferson nickel has been a part of American coinage since 1938, featuring the same core design for decades. By 1994, it had become a common fixture in American life, with millions produced at both the Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, marked with a small d on the reverse. Proof coins were also struck in San Francisco, with an S mint mark and made especially for collectors, but here's where the story gets interesting. Not all 1994 nickels are created equal. In fact, hidden among the countless coins from that year are a small number of rare pieces with extraordinary features. Some are so rare and so well preserved that their value can climb into the tens of thousands. What makes these nickels so valuable? It all comes down to three major factors: condition, rarity, and errors. Let's break it down. First, condition. Collectors are always hunting for mint state coins, coins that have never been circulated and still carry their original luster, sharp detail, and flawless surfaces. These nickels are graded on a scale, with MS 60 to MS 70 representing the highest quality specimens. If your 1994 nickel has never seen a cashier's drawer, never been dropped or scratched, and still looks brand new, it already has collectible potential. Next comes rarity, and this is where things get very exciting. While most 1994 nickels are common, a few are rare due to limited survival in mint state condition or unusual minting errors that occurred during production. These are the coins that collectors dream about. Let's talk about some of the most valuable and sought-after error types you might find on a 1994 Jefferson nickel. One of the most famous errors is the double die. This happens when the coin is struck with a die that has a misalignment, resulting in visible doubling of the letters or numbers on the coin. If you closely examine the words Liberty or the date 1994 and see a shadow-like doubling of the numbers or letters, you could be looking at a double die variety, something that collectors are willing to pay a premium for. Another rare and valuable mistake is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned during minting, causing the image to be stamped off to one side. The more off-center it is, and the more detail that's still visible, the more collectible it becomes. A 10% or 20% off-center strike with the date still clearly visible can command an impressive price. Then there's the clipped planchet error, where a small curved portion of the coin's edge is missing due to a cutting mistake at the mint. These are instantly recognizable and often bring in big numbers, especially if they're found in near-perfect condition, but perhaps the most exciting error of all is the wrong planchet strike. Imagine a Jefferson nickel design accidentally stamped on a penny blank, or even a foreign coin planchet. These error coins are rare and can be extremely valuable due to their uniqueness and eye-catching appearance, and let's not forget about full steps nickels, a collector favorite. These are nickels where all 5 or 6 steps of Monticello on the reverse side are fully visible and sharply defined. Achieving a full step strike is difficult, and very few coins come out of the mint with such precision. If your 1994 Jefferson nickel has clear, complete steps beneath Monticello, it's already in a top-tier category. Even the proof coins from San Francisco, which were never intended for circulation, can be worth a nice sum, especially when found in flawless condition or if they contain a rare minting flaw like frosting inconsistency or die polishing marks. Now, let's imagine you're lucky enough to find one of these special nickels, maybe with a double die error, or a dramatic off-center strike, and in brilliant uncirculated condition. What kind of value are we talking about? Well, here's where things get truly shocking. Among the 1994 Jefferson nickels, there exists a rare example that checks all the right boxes: a nearly perfect strike, a rare mint error, and certified by a top grading service. And when this coin appeared at auction, collectors went wild trying to get their hands on it. That incredible nickel sold for an eye-opening $92,000. Yes, you heard that right, 92,000 United States dollars for a single 5-cent coin. That's the power of condition, rarity, and a little twist of minting history. So, now that you know what to look for, what are you waiting for? Go grab your coin jar, check your old collections, visit a flea market or antique shop. Examine every 1994 nickel you come across. Who knows, maybe one of them holds the same rare traits as the coin we just talked about, and if it does, you might just be holding a small piece of metal that could change your life. Thanks for watching today's episode of Coins Hunter USA. If you enjoyed learning about the rare 1994 Jefferson nickel, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you'll never miss another incredible coin story. Until next time, keep searching, keep dreaming, and as always, happy collecting.